everybody, and welcome back to the I Don't Know Running podcast, where we share our experiences that make running fun and sometimes not so fun. I'm Lewis, and I'm a self-admitted lazy ultra runner.
And I'm Mitch, and I have a question. If you guys are ready for the next race, like Sioux Falls, now that this is over, we can talk about what's next.
Already?
Yeah.
No. 5Ks.
Yeah.
I specialize in
5Ks.
5Ks from now on.
And we have Brian joining us. Brian Steinberg is joining us fresh off the Western States finish. Congrats, first of all.
I have another belt buckle.
Yes, he brought it with him. Probably doesn't even know where his other one is.
Oh,
I know.
Oh, okay. We talked about that on the way out. They were both of them going, I think I know where it is, but because I wore mine the entire time out there. Every day.
I left mine at home.
Yeah, Ashley did too. I wore it every day except for the day returning because it was a little bit easier to manage, like pulling it off at the airport and all of that. So, but yeah, so this episode is going to be all things Western States again, I should say.
Well, 2024 version of Western States.
Yes.
So this is new.
And this is more or less a recap of the race, the events, all the things leading up to it, but more importantly, the bulk of the race itself, how it went for Brian, how it went for crew. We're going to talk about all of that and just how the overall experience was. It was a different experience than in 15 and 17.
We're getting better at it.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because we're getting better at it. And we have talked about this on the podcast before with regards to being, you do things enough and you start to get a little bit like, I've done it, it's easy to do. So you might not like put as much effort into the front end of things. And I wouldn't say that I didn't put effort into the front end of it, but I was comfortable with like where we were. But we had 3 people out there, realistically 4 people out there crewing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we had 4 people out there crewing Brian that have never crewed Western States.
Yeah.
Only I had. But I was comfortable. I'm like, guys, this isn't...
Ashley had run it before, though.
She had run it, but it is a much different experience crewing.
Yeah. It's a whole different angle from looking at it.
Yeah. So it was it was interesting to go through that and see. There was so much. We were talking about it like Thursday and Friday. And every time I'm kind of sitting back, shaking my head going, guys, this isn't that hard. Like we've got this. Like Brian, number one, has everything laid out. And he's the simplest, probably one of the easiest people to crew on a 100-miler.
I think so.
I would agree. Very easy to crew.
Lewis is a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
I would say I request a lot. Yeah. I might only need a little.
Yeah.
That's all. But I know that about myself. I will say this though. I would do my setup different. It would be much like what Brian's is. Backpack and just a simple sheet.
Because I'm crewing coming up for Laura.
Yeah.
Talked about it a couple times, but I said that's the one thing. And we're working on like a spreadsheet for her of goals. I said that for me, when I crew Lewis, has been one of the most helpful things. Because then we kind of know a time frame of when he's coming in. For Brian, we did it similar. He didn't fill out any spreadsheet, but we looked at that. We worked together and we would say, hey, we think he's going to come in about this time. And this is when we should expect him.
Yep.
So I think that stuff is important.
Yeah. And one of the things that Brian put together that was really nice, 2 things. Number one was he did have times, all the times of different people that have ran that we know, more or less for a reference though. So like Ben
Van Hoos and some other, and yourself and
Ashley and Brian's time from prior. So we had nice references.
It was just a simple list because I could imagine as a crew when you're waiting at a place for like, okay, when is he coming in? And like, how long did it take Lewis to get in here last time? How long did it take Ashley to get here last time? And like, cell service is terrible out there. So if you have a printout of the answers to the questions that's most on your mind. Like, I thought that would help.
It was super helpful, very helpful. And so I would do that. I would also have my goal. We did have his goal. We knew what his goal was, and it was easy to reference that. It was so. But anyway, the other piece of paper that he gave us, which was really helpful, was instead of how, on the spreadsheet, I've got this aid station crew access, this is what I want at the end.
Yeah.
He just had all of that end stuff as one spreadsheet, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 times that we get to see him. Very simple, bolder, bigger print that we could really easy reference. All right, Robinson Flat. I want these 5 things asked of me. Have I got this? Have I got this? Have I got this? Have I got this? Yes? Okay, all things have been checked off the list. Very easy reference. So I would do that as well. And then the backpack, obviously, I would just have it a simple backpack.
Not
one thing.
Not 3 duffel bags to carry down to.
No, I realized I would do bins.
Yeah, I don't want any of that stuff.
But the bins are more, they're really
bulky.
good for drop bags.
Yeah. But not
They're
to carry.
really good. Yeah, not for carrying. But anyway, let's jump into the race or the week. I guess the week leading in.
Yeah, because we flew out on a Tuesday.
We all flew out on a Tuesday.
Before.
May as well have been Wednesday.
Yeah, nothing really quite went to plan on Tuesday, but that's why you fly out on Tuesday, to give yourself a buffer on Wednesday. So the main events on site, the meetings happen Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, so Tuesday, they flew out earlier than us. Their flights went great, right on time, all of them.
We left in the afternoon and got there at around 8 or so at night, local time out there, which is 11 o'clock our time. And
a long enough day.
We were lucky enough to get around because there were storms that came in that morning. So it was tricky with
on
tricky
Tuesday.
with our dog, getting him situated. And even the day before, our son had a fever that we had to take care of. So it was a little bit weird just trying to make sure we got out the door and all the packing and everything else that goes involved with it.
Well, and taking a toddler with
toddler,
yeah. So there was a lot of packing, a lot of getting prepared, and we made it work.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later as we get into more of the details, especially during the crewing aspect of it. But yeah, and so for us, we did not fly all the same airlines. 4 of us did.
But different flights.
Different flights. So Sean and I were on the same flight out. Amy and James were on a different flight out. As it turned out, they got delayed right away, right out of Grand Rapids. Delay. And so that kicked off their travels. And then Sean and I got into Denver and got delayed for 7 hours. What was supposed to be a nice 3-hour delay, I say nice.
Layover.
Layover, became an additional 4 to 4.5 hour delay on top of our 3-hour layover. So we spent 7.5 hours in Denver airport. Not a lot to do. We milked our lunch or dinner or whatever it was as long as we possibly could, eating, spending a fortune on airport food because it's expensive. And then we went and just waited. And what was interesting is we were, it was just kind of clunky because when we were supposed to get into Reno, because of all the delays, because of the initial, the first layover and then what James and Amy got delayed meant that we were going to get in and have like 2 hours. Well, it's like a 40-ish minute ride from Truckee to the airport. And so Brian was like, well, he's going to have to go there. But then what do? Wait for 2 hours? It was just this weird, this timing just was not working anymore. Well, then because we kept getting delayed, it actually worked out perfect. Amy and James got there the same time we did. And we got there just enough ahead of Amy and James. We were actually able to go out, get in the van. Then Brian could go back into the airport, rent the other vehicle because we were getting 2 vehicles. He rented the other vehicle, and then they showed up. And so we were all basically left there at the same time about, I don't know, was it like 1 a.m. or close to 1 a.m. or something like that?
Something like that. But I think we probably should back up a little bit and say that, okay, I was the runner. Ashley came out and our toddler, Nicholas.
Yeah.
And then the crew was you and Sean and Amy and James.
Yep.
And there's no way everybody could fit in one vehicle with all their luggage. So we planned on renting 2 vehicles all along. So we rented a minivan and a small car. And that was the plan all along. And there's more reasons behind it than just that. But that was the plan, was to rent 2 vehicles. So when we landed at 8, I picked up the van and the car seat and we went to Truckee to the Airbnb, got them situated, drove back to Reno. Picked you guys up right away. You guys jumped in the van, ready to take that. I went back in, got the car, and followed behind. And I don't know how late that was, but it was a late night.
It was late.
Especially leaving Michigan.
Yeah, it was like 4 a.m. our time back here, and we went to bed. And so you're still on Michigan time. You wake up at like 6, like 2 hours later. And so...
And one of the most important things about getting prepared for a 100-miler is to not be behind on sleep, so...
That set us up nicely.
Yeah.
So that kicked off the travel experience. And then, leading into the race itself, there's a bunch of hoopla. The nice thing was Wednesday, as Brian mentioned, was just kind of an off day, so to speak, where we could go to the grocery store, we could catch up on sleep, do whatever, a down day kind of thing. So we did all that Wednesday. Not a lot to talk about there.
Other than driving to aid stations.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That gets complicated. And some people that are listening that don't know the aid stations and the names, it's going to go over their heads. But it's like so routine to us to know what we're talking about and in the path that it takes to go from the start towards Truckee, take the highway near the finish to Auburn, jump over the river or whatever, and then take Forest Hill Road all the way back. So we did a dry run of that, and we only went back to Forest Hill. I don't know how much to get into the weeds of all of it, but we stopped at Forest Hill on Wednesday, which was nice. And then the idea was to do a dry run to get to basically to Green Gate, because we figured Sean and Amy would probably be driving in the dark to get there. So we at least did that. And then on the way back, we stopped by No Hands Bridge. So we all got out and were able to walk across No Hands Bridge.
Yeah, and check out No Hands Bridge because it's not even an aid station anymore.
No.
So you don't get to really see that other than crossing it as a runner now.
Yep.
And we'll get into the whole dry run to Green Gate, which is a really good idea. You get to check it out. By the way, Green Gate has been cleaned up a ton. It's such an easy parking experience now. You still have a long walk to Green Gate. It's still a long haul in and out, but they have a nice field there and they park you. There's not all this big situation anymore out there, which is awesome.
Oh, there's a situation, but don't give it away yet.
Yeah. So that was Wednesday, kind of a catch-up day, doing things like that. Go back. Thursday is a go check out Palisades Olympic Village, essentially. We just went there. They had a couple of events, the women's thing.
The Trek to High Camp and the crew meeting.
And the crew meeting. So the Trek to High Camp is just jump on the gondola, which is kind of cool. It's like a $35 ticket. It's just part of the experience of coming to Western States. So they take you up to the top and all your crew can go up there and they can check it out and they can take the extra mile and go up to, or whatever it is, 0.8 or whatever it is, up to the escarpment over the top. And
when you say to the top, so people know that it's the race starts off at 6,700 feet or whatever and goes up 2,500 feet, but High Camp is 3 miles up, and that's where the gondola goes.
And the escarpment is 3.8 or basically 4 miles
mile up
to the top. And so we went up there and it was windy as all get out. It was windy up there. Fortunately, it was not that on race day. So but we went up there, checked it out, took some pictures, really cool pictures, met some people up there. And we met a couple of individuals from South Carolina and Kentucky, I think it is.
I didn't talk to him much.
So, but it was interesting. They were just out there because they were just fans of trail running, ultra running. And obviously Western is one of the pinnacles.
Did you hike up as well to the...
Yeah. I took the gondola up 3 miles and then went the last mile.
Did Ashley and Nicholas go up too then at that point?
No.
They took the gondola up and stayed at the high camp.
That was Nicholas's nap time.
So he wasn't going to be a good time going up the rest of the way.
No, but he was asleep. He fell asleep on the gondola ride up.
Okay.
So then Ashley just hung out at high camp with Nicholas.
Yeah. And that was a trend throughout the remaining was when's nap time for Nicholas and when do we have to try to be quiet? And so it was an interesting experience crewing Western States with a toddler. That is a whole new experience. But anyway, that was Thursday. Come back down. We go to the crew meeting, do all of that. There were a few vendors set up. And so we kind of checked out that as well. Go to the crew meeting. It was really interesting. During the crew meeting, there was a segment where they say, you really shouldn't be doing this with babies. And that's when Nicholas, he decided I'm throwing a fit. Yep. I don't like that statement. And he started crying and screaming. And so Ashley's like, oh, what do I do? And so she gets up and takes him into the back. And they ended up, I don't know what you guys did.
Yeah, we ended up leaving before it was done because it was a meeting for the crew people. And I already have my perspective of what I need to do. It was more for the crew. And so you guys stuck there till the end.
Yeah. And it was okay. It is good. I will say this. Even if you're a veteran of that race, for your crew, it's really important to go to the crew meeting because there are things they cover that are specific to that year. What roads are potentially closed or things like that. Just different things that it's good to talk about. One of the things I asked is, can you go over the Green Gate situation? Because when we did it in 15 and 17, it was very important. Yeah. Only park on this side of the road. Don't use the bathroom there. Don't do this. Don't do that. Or we're going to get kicked off that area. So I wanted them to explain that more. And obviously they have settled all of that because it's a wonderful experience to park there.
Depending.
Now. Yeah. We'll get to that.
I want to just say that again.
Yep.
Yes. So that was kind of Thursday. We head back. That's about it on Thursday, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's kind of a crew day because you get to do the whole go up to the high camp and all of that and do the crew meeting and stuff like that. And it's starting to fill in now around Squaw, Palisades. They made a name change to Palisades now. Mentioned that in the last podcast. But it's starting to get a little bit busier there. They're setting up the whole start and all of that. And so anyway, that's Thursday. Friday is when things officially, I don't want to say officially, but really kick off. Things are starting to get busy. And so they start with the High Camp Challenge, the Hoka High Camp Challenge, which is the run up to
Uphill Challenge. I don't know.
Uphill Challenge. Yeah.
It's in the program.
Yeah, it's in the program, which is 3 miles. You basically run up 3 miles to high camp, not all the way to high camp, but close to high camp. And it's just a fun run. It's really nothing more. You're not chipped or anything like that. It's just a way for crew to get a run in and you can check out.
You can test some Hoka shoes, do some test fittings and tryouts, I guess.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That you could drop your shoes off and you could take their new Speed Goat 6s and put them on and run the race, come back down and give them to them, and you can check out some new shoes. And full of the dirt that Western States puts on your shoes.
This podcast is not sponsored by Hoka,
yeah,
but Hoka sponsored everything out there. Yes. Hoka's got their logo on everything out there.
Everything. Every aid station coming into it, you see the Hoka. You see, it is kind of cool. You see the Hoka blue, you know you're close to something. So
yeah.
So anyway, kicks off that kind of kicks off the festivities for the day. We ran back, I think, and got showered and then went back.
For the crew meeting?
Yeah. No, for the race. That would have been for the race meeting at that point.
Yeah, race meeting on Friday.
And the race meeting is, we did talk about this on the last podcast, is dumb, in my opinion. Yeah. Number one, I always thought the race meeting, at least when we went last time, was more informative. Now it's just like, let's call up the top runners this year. Let's talk about who's the sponsor of the race or who's like the board, the medical, who they are.
It's like a photo opportunity for some, but it was held outside
in the
heat. In the middle of the Olympic Village area, and not everybody has a view. They only had a few chairs. You couldn't hear, you couldn't see. It was not. It was kind of. It was a low point of the whole thing.
It really
was underwhelming.
It was super underwhelming. If there's something that I'm gonna skip that. It's pointless. It is, to me, I got nothing from that.
At least when it was inside, they had a lot more seating and people could stand around the edges and you could actually see the elites go up there. But this year, we were kind of back a little ways. You didn't see anything.
And you could hear. Like if you were outside, like literally, if you were outside the direct line of the speakers, you couldn't hear a thing. I had to walk. I walked from where I was in so I could actually see and hear what's going on. It was dumb. Anyway, I said to Mitch on the last podcast, I said, if Brian gets a what can we do better survey, please put that on the survey.
Yes,
like better race meeting location.
Yes.
Hopefully there are 300 and what's the race entry? 370? What is it? 369?
369, 370.
Hopefully 369 people put that on the race survey. So anyway, that's Thursday, or I'm sorry, Friday. And I mentioned this again on the last podcast. That's when like you can feel like we're getting close. Brian does his registration at that time prior when we were doing the uphill challenge.
Yep. Yeah. While you were doing the uphill challenge, I went through because they had a long, 4 or 5 hour window of packet pickup stuff. So I went through and did that while you guys were doing the uphill challenge, and I got my nice swag. I got a nice bag. I got a few other things.
It's not a grocery bag.
No, it's not a grocery bag at all.
I don't know what happened 17. They must have been tight on money or something.
Was Hoka a sponsor back then?
No. No. They were not. But even 15, your swag was better than mine. I think the only thing I have left is that shirt from 17. Like that's like and everything else I bought. So the shirt that I wear, the hat that I wear, I bought those things after. But the bag that he got is really slick. It is nice. It's a nice size for use of a lot of different things. And of course it's got Hoka's brand all over it. It's cool color. But anyway, so that was registration. You said you ran into, who was it at registration?
Oh, and because all the runners have to wear a bracelet, and I had one of my cameras with me. I think it was just my GoPro, and then I'm kind of showing the woman putting the bracelet on, and then the volunteer said, "You might want to pan up a little bit. That's Nikki Kimball." I'm like, oh, okay. So she's got her buckle on and everything else, and it's like, that was cool.
Yeah, they usually have somebody or a few people in line volunteering, helping runners register that were staples of that race, whether they're winners or multi-time winners of the race or been around from the beginning.
Throughout the weekend, there were a lot of people that are very much involved in it over the years that you see, that you recognize, that they were on podcasts or YouTube videos or something before.
Yeah, Hal Corner and
Scott Jurek.
Scott Jurek are always at
Quarry Road
aid station. So you see guys like that, and they're filling bottles and getting you a Coke or doing whatever. That they're out there doing it and helping. It's really cool.
We saw Gordy at a few different places.
Yeah,
and
Gordy's
Tim
making his round. Yep. So yeah, that was Friday, and then it was time to shut things down, get back to the house.
The Airbnb in Truckee.
We
stayed in Truckee this year.
Yeah, which we did talk about that as well a little bit on the last podcast. If you could get the same house that we had in that area for the same price as in Truckee, I would do it. I would get it closer.
Yeah.
But that said, if you can't, Truckee's a great location. It was fine.
Yeah.
No issues with being there. We were about 20 minutes.
20, 25.
Between 20 and 25 to get from where we were to the start. I mean, it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
Easy driving, easy traffic. So yeah, Truckee's an absolutely great place to stay. That said, I'm sure as more and more people are staying there, the VRBO prices are going to continue to go up and you're going to have to keep going further away. But anyway, It was great. It was a good place to stay. The house was wonderful. Really nice location because Sean, Amy, I, and James all went for a nice run right out of there and beautiful trail. So yeah, that's Friday leading into the race. And then it's on to, we did a little bit of crew meeting the night before.
For about 3 minutes. That's all it takes.
Going, all right. One of the things, I will say this, one of the things we did different this year that I had not done, Amy, who had crewed the year prior, had went up to the escarpment the year before. The only thing that does that you have to be aware of,
the morning of the race before the race starts.
You have to get up way early. And I say that, but realistically, you're getting up about an hour earlier than your racer is. And you have to get to the start and you have to hike up. So you're hiking up. There's no gondola ride halfway or 3/4 of the way. You're hiking up with whatever gear you want to take.
4 miles in the dark.
4 miles in the dark.
With a bunch of other people doing the same dumb thing.
And go up there and prepare and watch people come over. And I took my camera up and I set it up and I did a bunch of photos and video of all the people coming over the top. And it was a fun time. That said, depending on your runner, if you are sub 23, maybe 22, I don't know if you have time to do that. Like if your runner is going to be sub 22, I would not recommend it because you're not going to make it to Robinson Flat potentially before that runner comes through. We had a 2-hour delay in our car to be able to get to Robinson Flat. Now, without that 2-hour delay, you can probably make it. It's not a big deal, but you can't guarantee that.
Right.
So that's just something to keep in mind. That said, also, it was a really fun experience to be able to do that. It's kind of a Tour de France like feel up there where it's crowds of people on both sides and there's a single like line for you to go through, tons of cheering and lots of fun. So we did that. Amy, Sean, and I. Sean stayed just a level down. She wasn't real super comfortable that there was a single track climb that's kind of steep and just she was really comfortable like, I don't want to hold anybody up. So she stayed down just a little bit. And Amy and I went up and we saw everybody come through essentially.
So what's that like? I got to think about that. The leaders, are they running at that point, going up that?
Yeah.
So you see, was Walmsley leading right off the bat? Or I imagine it's pretty tight at that point.
He was in the leadish group. There was a single guy that broke out ahead at some point that went over first. And then there was the lead group of, I don't know, 5 to 8 guys or whatever it was. And actually, what's her name that won it?
Katie.
Katie was in the back of that lead group of guys.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
But they were going pretty fast.
Yeah, I wish I remembered the escarpment time. They have a time that you go over. Brian went over at 60 minutes. I think they were, yeah, I don't remember. They're up there pretty quick. I was surprised from the time that, it was 5 a.m. race starts to when you could hear the cheers start to come up the mountain because they hit, different stages where people might be at.
Did you actually hear the gunshot at 5 when it started?
No.
Yeah.
No.
They fired a gun again.
Yeah, I saw a video. It might have been James's or somebody's. I saw somebody's video where they did fire a gun off. That's how they start Western states.
Yeah.
Well, let's hand it over to Brian. What was the start like?
Well, part of the reason why you go up to the peak then is you didn't mention the sunrise looking over Lake Tahoe.
It was pretty cool.
That's like half the reason you go up there, right? That's why Amy wanted to go back up.
Yeah, it is. It is a nice view. And you do get up there right around the time that the sun starts coming up there. It's beautiful. It really is. So let's go.
The start of the race.
Yeah.
It was like any other race.
Other than you have an uphill 4 mile.
Yeah, other than it was 9 years to get back to it. But like, I don't get too over anxious or too amped up or nervous about it. So I've done so many races that I just don't quite get that feeling anymore. Might be a little bit of a psychopath at this point because of that, but that's another story. But yeah, it was great start lining up. I had all my gear and everything that I planned on for the start of the race because I had a short list of things. But then the most obvious thing that I overlooked was the extra GoPro battery. I don't know how I forgot that, but I had my GoPro in my hand ready to go, and I had whatever else I needed in my pockets and stuff ready to go. And it's like, wait a minute, I didn't bring my extra GoPro battery and memory card. I wasn't going to run out of memory anyway. I never do. But I figured I would run out of a GoPro battery before 30 miles or 7 hours or whatever. So that kind of threw off the video recording just a little bit. I didn't get as many long shots because I was trying to save GoPro battery.
I wondered if that affected, when you decided to use it and for how long.
Yeah, I was hoping to take longer shots. Eventually, I'm going to get a long video out of this because we have so much video that we all took.
Yeah,
it'll take a while to get that put together, but I was hoping for just some longer shots that I could hold, and it's like, I don't think I can quite do that. So not till after Robinson Flat, then I got another battery or a couple batteries, but at that point, video recording is another whole conversation.
Yeah, a completely different aspect of the race. So Brian goes up and over. From the crew standpoint, then Amy, I, and Sean have to get down the mountain now. Like they've all come over, but now you've got there's no gondola ride down.
Well, to back up a little bit, you went out early. James and I drove out to the start. And then, of course, because we have to worry most about Nicholas and his sleeping and everything, Ashley stayed back and did not go to the start.
Yep.
So it would have been nice to have them at the start, but unfortunately, and it made more sense and it worked out well that they stayed back.
Yeah.
So that's how we decided to start the race. We went over all this stuff. We don't need to go over all of it on this podcast because it gets complicated, but that's how we started it. So then, after I go up and over, then you guys need to figure out your side of it.
Yeah. One of the things we tossed around was what's the most important thing, and that we've landed on Nicholas letting him sleep as long as possible in the morning was the best. So that's why he didn't go.
So you had to go back and pick them up too.
Well, we didn't. We decided James was going to go back, get Ashley and Nicholas.
That's part of having two vehicles.
Yep.
Nice.
It's hard to follow along, but that's part of it.
Yes. So he had the van with the car seat and everything, and Sean, Amy, and I had the car, and so they could do their thing back at the house. He just had to drop Brian off on time, go back to the house. They were gonna put in the cooler, whatever they had to put in the cooler. And then we just got to get down and start going to Robinson Flat. And that worked fine. One of the things Brian asked us to do, and this was something that actually is really nice, and if I ever go back, or if he or Ashley ever goes back, I'm sure this is something that will be referenced, is he had a notepad, and he said, just keep track of all times. So for us, it was the first thing we wanted to keep track of was, all right, we arrived at Palisades, Olympic Village at such and such. We're at the top of the mountain at such and such. We got down the mountain at such and such time.
That's cool.
It just helps going, it takes you about this much time, but we tried to do that as much as possible throughout the entire day.
I bought them a little notepad to actually write it down with pen and paper. They didn't do it.
No, we have a text. Well, it's funny because we wanted to do that, but then we found we had two vehicles. It started because we didn't actually have it. They had it. It's like, let's start a text. We want to keep track of all these times as much as possible. At the end of the day, it was really, it will be a really nice set of data to have for crewing aspects. Like it takes you this long to button everything up. And obviously it can be flexible a little bit because Brian, it's just, all right, fold up a chair, close the bag. We got all the cameras.
So did you went directly to Robinson Flat? Did Ashley and
we all actually went to Forest Hill.
Okay. And they met you there.
They met us there. And at that point we were going to drop a car. So we all left as soon as most of the field was over, we started hiking down. And at some point we texted James and said, hey, we're heading down. Well, that was his key to be like, all right, we need to get out of the house in like 20 minutes, whatever. Because it was a 25-minute drive from Olympic Village to the house.
So he took off as soon as Brian was off. He
took off
back to the house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then it's probably an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes to get everybody up and over the escarpment for that first 4 miles.
Okay.
So then we get back to the bottom. They basically took off 5 minutes or so ahead of us from the house. James, Ashley, and Nicholas. Sean, Amy, and I were in the car, and we started heading to Robinson Flat or Forest Hill. So we all head that way. We get to Forest Hill. We still have a fair amount of time. We drop off a car. I'm trying to think if anything happened really there. Nothing really much.
Because the program says plan on 3.5 hours to get from the start to Robinson Flat. Well, you had extra time, or you lost time because you had to come down from the beginning.
Yep.
And it took me 7 hours to get to Robinson Flat. So
yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get to Robinson Flat. It's 30 miles, 31-ish. It's about a 50K. So we drop off a car, load everything into the van, and we head to Robinson Flat. One of the things they told us in the crew meeting is we've got Robinson Flat all taken care of. No issues. You'll be able to come in there and head to the aid station. Well, we got there and it was backed up on the road. So the road before you even get to the shuttle, it was backed up on that road. Fortunately, we got there we still got there ahead of a lot of people. So James jumps out of the vehicle and he walks down and they're like, yeah, you're just going to have to wait. And one of the questions he asked is, can we park our car here? And they said, no, you cannot park your car on the side of the road. So, okay, well, I guess we wait. And so part of the things that we started keeping track of was that whole time thing. So Ashley made sure she took the camera and would take a video showing the time, where we're at. We'd move. About an hour later, she did the same thing, where we're at.
It took an hour?
No, I think it took close to 2.
Sitting on the side of the road, waiting to park.
Waiting to get to either the parking lots where then you jump on the shuttle and go up to Robinson Flat, or what we were told, and this is what we were actually then starting to go, oh, hey, we potentially could get really good here. As they released cars up top, because all your leaders were starting to come through, there was room up top. And so we were hoping that we were going to get one of those spots up top. And sure enough, a couple hours goes by and they released enough, and we were actually able to drive all the way up to Robinson Flat.
That was easier then at that point.
It was super easy. Yeah.
They won't let anybody but leaders up there to start, though, I imagine. Or
I think it's first come, first serve, but that's who's heading there. Yeah. And there is quite a bit of parking up there. But the entire the entire aid station is there's not enough parking for everybody that needs to go up there or that wants to go up there. One of the things that had happened the year before, Brian mentioned, is Dusty Corners or Duncan Canyon. I forget
both of them. Like the B Crew idea was shut down because of a previous fire. So like last year, everybody that would have done the B Crew thing to Duncan Canyon, Duncan Canyon, Dusty Corners, those crew people also jumped onto the Robinson Flat. So that's why Robinson Flat was a mess the last year or 2 years, maybe just 1 year. But this year was supposed to be better because Mosquito Ridge Road or whatever was open again
from the fire. Huh. So that I don't know if they're worked out now. This is how it's going to be. But I will say this: if this is their worked out, plan on sitting on the road for or potentially sitting on the road for 2 hours in order to find a parking spot.
So you would do it differently. You would have gone earlier if you could have and just sat somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't run into that the last 2 years, in 15 and 17, right? You were able to park. I know the year we crewed Brian, we didn't wait.
We waited in line somewhere. I remember because
maybe a little bit, but we didn't. We got close enough. We didn't. I don't remember getting on a shuttle.
I don't either.
For Robinson?
Yeah.
Because I know we were waiting in line, and I remember Charles and Ashley's mom were right behind us, and he ran up for a minute, and I remember waiting in line. But
did you just walk it though?
Had to carry your cooler.
So probably not, because that's a long haul from that shuttle location. We shuttled from Robinson. I'm almost positive.
Oh,
the year I crewed for Brian the first time. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
but getting to Robinson Flat, I was running.
Yeah.
I went through about a total of maybe 50 feet of snow-covered trail. That was all that was covered in snow. Ha ha.
Yeah, that was a much better snow year, as in no snow.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first year you came through, though, it was so dusty. Was it the dust as bad?
It was. I don't think I noticed it as much to begin with. I know after I put a headlight on later, I mean, I definitely noticed it. My throat was a mess afterwards. It was definitely dusty, but for some reason, it didn't bother me as much the first 30 miles as it did before.
Yeah, because you could hardly talk the first time you did that. He came out of there like,
what is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. From either is elevation affecting him that bad? Is he super dehydrated? There was a lot of questions happening the first time.
But to get to 30 miles, you only go through 2 aid stations, 3 aid stations.
Yeah.
Lions Ridge Lions Ridge, Red Star, and Duncan Canyon. And Duncan Canyon is basically you're a marathon in, and you've only had 2 aid stations. So from Red Star to Duncan Canyon is like over 8 miles. And looking at the math from when I ran in 2015, that's where I slowed down a little bit, but I got passed by a ton of people. And this year, looking at what I did, I think I only lost 2 places instead of 73 places.
Oh, wow.
So I held on there. We gave back a little bit later.
Did you just have to carry a lot more water knowing that, though, too?
That's where the experience came in. I actually had a hydration pack this time, and last time I didn't. I think I probably ran out of water last time, and I had plenty of ice bandana, and that really helped that section.
Yeah. So he gets to Robinson Flat, and just to compare from a crew aspect, he was great. I mean, he came in, sat down, talking, playing with Nicholas. I mean, it was comparing the 2 years, 15 to today or this year, we felt wonderful. He was, I don't know what the pace was, but he was well ahead of where he was last year.
55 minutes ahead of what I was before.
Yeah. And tracking well, so then when we fast forward a little bit, he was tracking really well, even the next aid station. Aid station, not crew access, aid station. He fired through. He never really delayed at any aid station, and Robinson Flat included. Did our normal thing I had from the crew side of things, I had it all worked out. I was going to set up my camera and I was going to get a nice view of like what's going on as you're crewing. And both times I did that, all I got was butt shots because of where I set it up. And now looking back, I'm going, yeah, that probably wasn't a great place to set up.
You like butts.
It literally, that's all you get for the entire time.
That's why I'm glad we had more than one camera going. You had the tripod thing. James had his GoPro, and usually somebody else had something.
Yeah.
Else. So I got probably 3 angles. So
yeah, one is
I'll stitch
useless.
something together.
One is useless, but anyway, I was really hoping to get some nice shots of like what happens like all around, but whatever. Not going to use that.
Yep, and that was the one where, Nicholas was at a couple of them, but he's right there on my knee just saying, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Then I go to put on the second shoe, and it's got gravel in it. Like, who put pebbles in my shoe? And I can only blame him for it.
Nicholas was because he had the shoes on, he's literally just taking rocks and putting them in his shoe.
Thanks.
So yeah, he put it on and took it off quickly and dumped out the gravel from the shoe. So... But yeah, he took off from there. They have changed things a little bit. So again, from a crew aspect, I was not able to go where I went last time looking for him. You can go down the trailway, or used to be able to go down the trailways. Well, I guess they had some issues with people providing aid outside of the designated aid areas. And so they said, if you don't have a media badge, you can't go down there. So said, okay, guess we're staying right here. And which was fine. You don't have to do that. It's just kind of Robinson Flat in particular. There's some nice area there that it's just kind of pretty back there. But anyway, so we stayed there. And honestly, because we had the delay that we did in the morning, getting off the mountain, the delay getting into the aid station at 2 hours, we weren't there for 40 minutes and he was there. So I went and hung out with James there. We watched a bunch of runners come through and went, oh, there's Brian. So then we fly and do our aid thing. He takes off and we button things up and we head back. And yeah, talk us through Robinson Flat to, in our case, Michigan Bluff, because we don't see you again until Michigan.
Yeah, it's basically I'll see you in another marathon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where, some of the experience of just knowing that there's some runnable stuff there and you run when you can, because like the first time, the only time I had run it before, you kind of like, I don't know how hard I should be running right now. So I think I might have backed off a little bit more than I should have. But this year I kind of know how the elevation chart works better. So push through it a little bit better. Heading down to Swinging Bridge is where both quads don't really appreciate all that downhill, because you can't really train for that kind of downhill in Michigan either. And then you get down to the Swinging Bridge, and then the big climb to Devil's Thumb. I get about 50 feet up and I'm sucking wind again. Like, it was fun doing baby steps up Devil's Thumb. So that's where I started giving back a little bit more time, which was fine. Really, the main goal was to try to, the A goal was to try to get under 24 hours. You have to at least start with that in mind.
Yeah.
But under 29 was really the goal, but really the goal is to finish. So,
yeah.
But I knew like right where I was at each aid station compared to, I was running against myself from 2015. I knew what time I got into all of them, and I knew I was doing pretty decent at that point.
Yep.
And from looking at the condition of some of the other runners at Devil's Thumb, I knew I was doing pretty good.
Devil's Thumb's the one that you talked about where it's a booger getting up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. Where you're at in the race, how hot it is now in the race, and then the climb that it is. It is the most memorable section of the race for me with regards to what's the hardest part, or what feels like the hardest part. Yeah.
You're just climbing something steep and you can't see the top, and there's trees around, so you're in the shade, and it just kind of winds back and forth, and you look around and you kind of think you're seeing near the top, like how can it possibly keep going? But it just keeps going sideways and it just keeps going up.
Yeah, and you'll go for whatever 10 minutes, and you're going, I've only went a quarter of a mile or something stupid like that. It takes a long time to do that climb.
So it was kind of in that section where the 24 goal is a little bit out the window, but that's fine. I was already 40 miles in at that point, so there's I was in plenty of good shape to finish.
Yeah. So he basically, we're tracking him so from the crew standpoint. So let's back up to the crew standpoint. We flew, so we got done at Robinson Flat. We go down. We have plenty of time. We go down, get in the car, go back to Forest Hill. And we go back to Forest Hill because right now it's about noon. And you have a lot of time before they're going to make it to Michigan Bluff. Plus, Michigan Bluff is only about 6 miles from Forest Hill. 3 miles to the turnoff, and then 3 miles basically to the aid station. There's a short shuttle. So we went and got something to eat. We kind of relaxed a minute. We did the whole vendor thing. So all of this is, not all of this.
Not all of it.
But all this, like
everything that says Hoka on it.
Yeah. All the Hoka and the one Nike and the Buff and the Rabbit. We went and did like vendor row or whatever it is, where they're just handing free stuff out. Ultra Runner sign up was there, was giving out Best Day Brewing beer, non-alcoholic beer, all free. Brooks Running was there, giving out water bottles. Ultimate Direction was there. I don't know what they were doing at that point of the race, but they had an amazing sale going on if you wanted to buy some of their gear. Rabbit was there giving out these, which are really cool, these ice buffs. A number of other companies were there just giving out stuff. Hoka obviously was there. So it was a fun time. And then so we got something to eat, and then we head to Michigan Bluff. And then at Michigan Bluff, there's the poker chip that we got where Brian got the new shoes.
Okay.
The day before. Because he was running Western States. So Nike was there giving out free shoes.
I'm not going to turn down free shoes, even if they're Nike.
He already used them once.
On the flight back.
On the flight home.
The only clean shoes I had for the way back.
So we, crew side of things, we get around at Forest Hill. We're done doing our thing. At this point, Nicholas has really been pretty good. Like, no real issues. He hasn't fussed. He's been, Ashley might say different, but I mean, she was the one obviously taking care of him. But from an all around standpoint, I think we all just kind of helped support where we could support as best we could. And, that was the one time you could start to see, okay, we got to be a little more aware of what's going on. He did not want his diaper changed. He was fighting Ashley. Not fighting Ashley, but just didn't want to lay back in the van the way it was.
Yeah, fighting. He's at that stage right now.
So we had to do like, all right, I'll tag team. Like here, I'll try to keep him busy with some stuff. And so it worked out. But that's where you're going, okay, we do have a toddler with us. Got to figure out how to make all this work. We load up, head to Michigan Bluff. Now we still have time. And that's the place you'll probably remember. You're like, okay, if you're going to get some sleep, grab some sleep.
Because you got a little bit of time.
You have a little bit of time. And our AC was working in this van.
Well, it wasn't as big of a van.
Wasn't as big of a van, but do you remember when Brian's first year, we tried in the van that we had, it was a white van.
And
it was the same size, but it did not keep up with the temps. But they did this year.
It wasn't quite as warm this year. It was still hot, but it was not quite as warm.
Not quite.
So
it might have been 5 degrees cooler.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that's all it takes.
We had a brand new van too.
Oh,
How many miles were on the van?
It had like 36 miles when we took it out of the...
So nice. We broke it in Western States style. So I was able to grab some sleep there. That was my first bit of sleep. And I took advantage. And
the That's experience from crewing 100-milers to know when you have a chance to sleep and you can pull it off, do it.
You sleep. You get the sleep wherever you can. Nicholas did too. Yeah, that was a point where he grabbed some sleep as well. Ashley, yeah, that's right. So James, Amy, I think, and then Sean maybe went down, but I'm like, I'm grabbing sleep. Like, I'm going to lay my head back and try and get some sleep. So I did. I rested for a fair amount there while Nicholas did. And then it was time. We headed down to Michigan Bluff and we started waiting. And at this point, crew side, we're doing math. We're really starting to do hard math at this point. Where is he checking in? And this was the one delay, I think it was Devil's Thumb. What's right after his Devil's Thumb?
Not much.
What page was it?
7.
7. So, yeah, you've got Robinson, Miller's Feed, Dusty Corner's Last Chance, Devil's Thumb, El Dorado Creek. So maybe it was it might have been Last Chance. I think it was before Devil's Thumb even. We were starting to do math. It was one of those two anyway. And he was actually you were only about 40 minutes off some of my times, which were 24-hour times, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so we're doing some math going, all right, he'll give a little bit of time back, but he won't spend as much time in the aid stations as what I did, because I spent a ton of time. And so we're still going, all right, he's doing good. He's doing good. And then he's giving some time back. And now we're getting nervous going, did something happen? But he's just going, I got time in my head. I know what I got to do.
I knew right where I was at. And I knew when I got to El Dorado Creek, because from when I did it before, that was one place where I sat for too long because it's one of the few aid stations that's at a low point, physically low point. You go downhill to get to it, and then you go back up. And I remember from sitting there before, it's like, you can't just quit now because you either have to go back up that way or you go up that way. I might as well go up that way. So eventually I went up that way. But, from listening to the podcast too, they're like, yeah, when you leave El Dorado Creek, the way that the elevation works is like the steepest part is at the aid station. Once you start going up, then it's not quite so steep. So you just kind of leave with that in mind, and that helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely giving a little bit of time back, but
still well ahead of the prior running in 15.
Yep. Just didn't want to blow up anywhere, and I was doing all right.
So. Yeah. So he comes into Michigan after all of that. Comes into Michigan about, where were you? Not quite an hour ahead.
Just over an hour ahead.
Okay. Before 8 o'clock. Put it that way. It was before 8 o'clock, slightly.
Like 3 minutes ahead, I want to say that. This year was 3 minutes ahead, and when my time from 2015, I was at 16:09, so it was after 9 o'clock.
Okay, so it was over an hour, yeah. And but when he left, and this was one of those, talk to your runner and make sure they know like where we're at. Because Sean was already preparing, like, hey, do you want some company if it's after 8? Well, he came in before 8. But he left after. And when you leave after, you can take a pacer. But he was in his head thinking, well, no, it's too early.
I got there in daylight. Like, you're breaking the rules. Why don't you read the program? I can't take a pacer yet. But then after I get a mile down the road, I'm thinking, wait a minute, it was after 8.
It was after. And did they ask, or as you checked out?
I don't think so.
No, it was just check out.
Yeah.
So anyway, he left. And again, looking really good coming into the aid station. Like, attitude's great, no big issues. He's not down, and so again, from the crewing side of things, felt great. Things felt good. He leaves, which is about a 6-mile section to Forest Hill, and that's just gravel road, right? Mostly. There's definitely another.
It's like the last canyon climb, Volcano Canyon or whatever.
Oh.
It's the last climb of the canyons is between there that people forget.
And that one sucks. Because now you just come off Devil's Thumb climb into essentially coming into, you still go through Eldorado
Devil's Thumb
Creek,
was so long ago. There was a Michigan Bluff climb in there too. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm messing those two up. Yeah, Michigan Bluff climb, which is a terrible climb. But yeah, then you're coming up to Bath Road essentially, and what I had done was I was picking him up there to pace. I got around and started walking back, but now it's dark. So you can't really sit there with your headlamp and flash everybody in the face to see if you know who it is. So I'm kind of slowly walking back, and everybody I see going, well, number one, I could check off headlamps because he had his Kagala on, so it was a waist lamp or the waist belt, so that helped. But I started walking back. I got basically back to the end of Bath Road, and he actually spotted me, and so we started heading towards Forest Hill, and this is where things get a little bit interesting. If we back up a little bit, if we go back to Michigan Bluff.
To Michigan Bluff at mile 55, Ashley said to me, hey, there was a fire somewhere around Green Gate, and they had closed the Green Gate aid station to crew. But she thought they had opened it back up.
So we got a message, hey, Green Gate's closed. What?
And now Green Gate is about mile 80 on the far side of a river crossing where the plan was to pick up Amy, to switch pacers from Lewis to Amy on the far side of the river.
Yep.
So that's the plan.
That was the plan. Well, then they said Green Gate was closed. That means not only does that change your pacer location, but that changes like where the crew actually has to drive to. It's not like they can still go to the same place. I mean, they got to go to Rucky Chucky near side now.
At mile 78 on the near side of the river.
Yep. Which is a completely different way, obviously. There isn't just like some bridge right there.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
It involves a 3-mile shuttle.
There's so many things that so keep in mind, now go back to Wednesday. We did this dry run to Green Gate so that Amy and Sean knew like, all right, this is what you're going to see. We'll throw that out the window now because it doesn't matter. So
could they have even made it to Rucky Chucky or not?
They could have.
But
yeah,
would it messed up other stuff after that, or they would
have? Well,
I mean, it would have messed up pacing, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Because you can do Rucky Chucky near side, drop off your pacer, and then you have time to get back around to Pointed Rocks.
Okay.
That's not necessarily the best way to do things, but it is a way, and it does complicate things a little bit. And they said the cars, well, we'll wait. So let's go back to Michigan Bluff. We got this message, Green Gate's closed. Well, then Brian goes through, or right around the same time Brian goes through, Sean and I took a shuttle, and we heard a guy say, hey, Green Gate's open back up. Okay, that's awesome.
This was at Michigan Bluff.
Michigan Bluff.
So we're all thinking that Green Gate is open.
Open.
And then I'm going through the aid station with you at Forest Hill, and I see a handwritten sign clipped to the aid station thing, no crew at Green Gate.
So
then I said, is that still a thing, or is that not a thing anymore? And then I noticed there was another sign, and the lady behind the thing said, yeah, no crew at Green Gate. And we're like, well, somebody said it was open up again. We don't know where this fire thing happened. We don't know how it was even communicated. I guess there was something on X or Twitter or whatever.
That was the other thing. It wasn't being sent out. It was, Amy saw it on X.
Oh.
And then we started asking, they're like, oh yeah, it's closed.
Yeah. So you need to have cell service to know this too, which is a little spotty out there too.
Yeah, at best. So I tell Brian, I'm like, go ahead, just head. We're down here on the right. I'm going to ask a few more questions. Then I go back to the girl that was behind the aid station. She was going to check with somebody. She goes up to this guy and he goes, but I made a phone call. I don't have the answer yet, but we'll let you know. And I said, well, I don't have time to wait. So I'm going to send somebody else up from our crew to find out. So I take off, head back down, find Brian. I think you might have, were you already with the crew?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think because I sat down there for a couple minutes. So then you came back. Yeah.
So I came down, found him, and he got all his stuff done for there. We get up and I tell them, I'm like, can you guys, you're just going to have to head back up there and ask them what's going on. So we left not knowing
if you were doing 20 miles or 30 miles or
yeah, exactly.
They could have gone to the near side and you would have only done 16. It could have gone as planned and could have been 18, or he could have had to have gone to
Pointed Rocks
and whatever that would have been.
Yeah.
Good thing you've been running this year.
34 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the cool thing though, if you ever run into this, if you have T-Mobile, which is what we have, you have really good service from Forest Hill to almost to Cal 3, which is the second or the last aid station before Roby, or not Roby, before Rucky Chucky. So you have miles and miles and miles to communicate with your crew as long as they have service. I had amazing service from, I don't know exactly how that route is, but T-Mobile, great service through there. So I was texting Amy and Sean. I think she had enough service. She was able to say, yep, looks like Green Gate's open back up. We're planning to head there. Okay. That was the semi-final notice we got. We got it 10 miles down the road or something. And Brian says, any update? So I pulled out my phone. I said, yeah, heading to Green Gate, taking a detour. Not sure. See ya.
Because I think that's what the fire issue was about, is there was a fire on the route that they were taking people to Green Gate. So it was that kind of a detour. There was not a fire at Green Gate or immediately there, but somewhere there was like a 10 or 12 acre fire somewhere. That's all I heard afterwards.
So they hooked up with some other people or something or other, and they were able to make it to Green Gate, which we've talked about this. Parking is wonderful. They do their parking. They head to Green Gate, head down to Green Gate. And I don't know, do
you know how much time they had to spare by the time they got down there or not?
They had plenty of time.
So they were good.
Plenty of time. I think Sean laid down and tried to take a nap. So it was, yeah.
We took our time between Rucky Chucky and Green Gate.
Yeah.
Crossing the river.
And as far as the race goes, from Forest Hill to Green Gate, nothing really.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely dusty out there. We were making decent time, running a little bit, walking fast for a lot of it, because that's kind of what some of my training had been. So really didn't get passed by too many people. I didn't pass that many. It was pretty much just holding position with everybody else.
And the river was low enough you could cross it on foot.
Crossed it on foot. They said life jackets were an option if we wanted it. So we did not do that.
Yeah, it was.
And you saw Tony. Did you take a picture?
We saw Tony.
Took a picture. And we were told at the crew meeting, it was funny. I think it was at the crew meeting. Yeah, water won't be very deep. I want to say they were saying like knee deep is what I thought.
It was
maybe it was deeper than that. Yes. And it was frigid. It was cold. It was Ice Mountain runoff.
Yeah, my feet were cold for a while after getting out of it. It was
So we weighed in, and good on the volunteers. They're telling you exactly where to step around and all of this. And
they're in the water the whole time too, aren't they? Are there some of them?
They are. They have wetsuits on.
Okay.
Keeping them warm.
Was Tony one with a wetsuit or not?
No.
He's handing out life jackets or...
Yeah, he's kind of running around, managing.
Mostly talking.
Yeah, mostly talking.
Yeah.
We get to the one section and the lady goes, yeah, this next step and the water's going to come up to about here. I went, that's not what they told us. The crew thing. And sure enough, it does. It comes right up to your chest. And I had my phone kind of in this location, and it was just I was able to get in and out of that section fairly quick. And it's a waterproof phone.
Right.
But I did not have a baggie for it or anything. And it ended up being fine. But yeah, cold. I will say this, that water was cold.
Yep.
Which one of the people that Brian was potentially going to pick up at that point, and she had to gone through that.
Would have been over her head.
It would have been to her neck.
Yeah.
And she does not like cold.
and to start a pacing section with cold, wet, everything would not have been good. So it was good that it worked out the way that it did. That you finished your section on that, and she was able to start dry.
Yeah, I got to do the nice uphill trek from Green Gate. Saw where you turned off. So the whole time the whole time Brian and I are going up, I'm like, Mitch took a wrong turn here. I'm going to try and see where he could have possibly done it. And I did see where the road comes down and goes left.
Yeah,
and it's main road. Yeah. But you would just keep taking it straight and you would have been fine. But yeah, I did see that. Oh, okay. I could see that. But yeah, we get to the top of Green Gate. Well, aid station at Green Gate, which is not the top. So
not quite.
You get to, as a crew,
I assume you change your shoes and stuff at that point too.
Yeah. Changed road shoes at that point, actually.
Really? Because it's pretty smooth after that for the most part?
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that's one of the things to do if you're going to change shoes. Might as well put road shoes on at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have 20 miles.
Yeah, it's still definitely a lot of trail. It's all trail, but
yeah,
just for a change of shoe feel.
Yeah, and that whole last mile is on the road, so
uphill,
but it's on the road. So yeah, I drop him, and Amy picks him up, and we get to start walking out of
Green Gate.
And
so I preview somebody has a really good sense of direction. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, Amy and Sean came in, Sean and I left. So Sean was our navigator, leaving Green Gate. And it's pretty straightforward. You walk up the hill, which is a long ways. I don't know the distance they say it is, but it feels longer. We get up there. We were walking, and we walk by this table, and we're walking, and one of the guys at the table is volunteer. Says, "Hey, are you walking all the way back to Forest Hill?" We're like, "What do you mean? Well, the cars are this way." And Sean's like, "Okay, yeah." So we turn around and come back, and I go, "Okay, thanks." We go by him, and we start walking up this other dirt road, and Sean's like, we turn left here. And so we turn left, and we start walking up this hill, and we get, 100 yards, 200 yards up the road. And she goes, "I don't think this is right." So I'm like, oh boy. So we turn around and we start coming back down, and there's another volunteer. I don't know why they came up, but they came up, and they're like, "You guys looking for the cars?" We're like, "Yeah." Like, "This way." So go back down where we were. We continue walking up, and we go up to a field where there are a bunch of cars. Amazing.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, you got the keys? No.
I know.
Amy's got the keys.
I said that. We get up there. I go, "I hope you have the keys." So she did.
Because from Green Gate on to get all the cruise stations, you gotta kind of go after a little bit. That's where it starts to get a little bit.
A little, but you still have, that's a 14-mile section from Green Gate to Pointed Rocks. So,
but you have that walk out of there, and if you get lost,
get lost a couple times.
We should back up again. I know the podcast is going to get a little long this time, but we should back up a little bit again.
Yeah.
From Forest Hill, okay, you and I were pacing.
Yeah.
Amy and Sean were in the car, And then because everything revolves around taking care of Nicholas.
Oh, yes.
Part of the strategy this year was that we rented a hotel for one night in Auburn, a couple miles from the finish. So there was no reason to, it's child abuse to try to drag a toddler out to a Green Gate or Rucky Chucky in the middle of the night. So we did get a hotel for one night. And the idea was that Ashley and Nicholas and James were going to check into the hotel for the night. And as far as I know, that worked out all right. Nicholas was able to get some sleep. I think James got a lot of sleep.
Yep.
And part of it was to have drivers that could drive back afterwards that had gotten some sleep. So I think that worked out well. So
yeah.
And so while all this was going on, the Green Gate stuff, the Green Gate debacle, they were all just at a hotel.
Yeah, they were getting some nice shut-eye. And James felt guilty about it, but it was good. I was glad he did.
It worked out well, I think, that part of it.
Yeah. So Amy is with Brian. And would you say you were pretty much holding course at that point?
Yeah, I was giving back a little bit of time, but it was all right. And with all the research that you do watching videos, like I was looking for the turn where Lucy Bartholomew's dad missed the turn. And I found where that turn was at. I had a little glitch with my GoPro at that point too, as far as changing batteries and having a dead battery or a battery that was wet. I'm still not completely sure. So I wasn't recording that much at that point. But I was looking for that spot that's about a quarter mile out to stay left, because if you go right, you go back down to the river. So a couple other people were with us at that point, runners and pacers. So I kind of chatted with them saying this was the turn. And then as we make the turn, I look back and two other people were about to take that wrong turn. Or they did take the wrong turn a few steps because I could see their headlights, and I yelled at them to come back up. So watching that video, I kept a couple people on course. Hopefully there's like a sign a little ways down there that says you're on the wrong course. I don't know, but like that's a bad spot to take a wrong turn.
Yeah, you'd probably go 2-3 miles and then you're at the river. So
yeah, it just goes down to the river, and once you realize it, you have to come back up, and that's
that would not be fun.
Adding 6 miles to your 100. No big deal.
But yeah, we did all right. Just putzing along, cruising along. Sun came up while we were out there, and yeah.
And so from my perspective, this was the interesting thing. So again, this is experience. We got to Pointed Rocks, and I told Sean, I go, I'm going to sleep. I know I've got time. I can get some sleep because I am exhausted now. Been up for over 24 hours.
And you ran.
Ran with him for 17, 18 miles. And I go, this is perfect. I have time to sleep. He has not checked in at, I don't know, whatever aid station it was. So I knew we had good time. And so I think it got changed, went back, sit down in the car, put the seat back, and just started dozing. Sean got around. I don't think she really slept because she's getting ready to run, and get up, start doing some math. And that's when we start checking texts with Amy. She's texting us saying how he's doing. And I'm going, the text she's sending is getting me nervous. And I'm going, well, he was really good when I left, like, is he going downhill?
What did you do?
What did you do to him? Yeah. No. But, as is with 100, anything can happen at any time.
Right.
Like it's never licked until you are across the finish line.
Right.
And so I'm going, oh, great. We're going to run into a 15 thing where come on, man, get up. You got to go. That kind of a feel. But I never felt like that. But I was worried. And my only comparison was where he was at with 15. And so, but when he comes into Pointed Rocks, and as soon as I said a couple words to him and he's talking back, I'm like,
yeah, I'm fine.
We're good. He's good. He's good.
I'm fine. I just had a really bad right quad and couldn't run downhills anymore. So,
which is going to happen when you're at mile.
Yep.
At that point, 90.
Yep.
94.
Yeah. The sun had come up, and this is one of the few 100-milers that I never got sleepy during. I was awake the whole time. Like, I just didn't let myself get conscious of what time it was. I just knew it was dark and just kept going. And you get to the aid stations and you get the sports drink and they say, do you want the kind with caffeine in it or not? And it's like, I'll try the caffeine. So I don't know how many cups of coffee that was worth, but I'm sure I had some extra caffeine that way.
I had a Coke at one of the aid stations because it's cupless, and he poured the whole cup in one of those soft flasks. I just downed it, and that was good. I was probably more asleep than what Brian was. I did get a little bit tired at some point in the stage that I was running with him, but anyway, yeah, Pointed Rocks. He got some good food in him, and
it's like mile 94.
Yep. And Sean was picking him up there, and it was starting to get warm. It is now already starting to get warm again. And so nothing real special there. He came in, sat down, did his thing. It was warm. He had some food and
ate a bunch of bacon
and took off.
Yeah.
And then it was time to head to the finish because no hands isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah, still had plenty of time to do it over again. I would have put a nice bandana back on again.
Yep.
But
yeah, because it was heating up.
It was warming up.
Yeah, and it was just going to get warmer over the next 6 miles. So we head to Auburn, Amy and I. And
then James and Ashley and Nicholas met you. They just went directly to
the
finish.
They had texted me and said, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to come to you? And I said, probably not worth it. It's a long walk from Pointed Rocks parking to the Pointed Rocks aid station.
Yeah.
So just head to Auburn. It was so they head to Placer High. We head to Placer High. And parking is a disaster there. There's just, I don't know, it's just tough. Not a lot of parking. We find parking, and we all meet up. We decide Ashley and Nicholas are going to wait about 100 meters, 150 meters or so, 150 meters from the finish.
On the track, yeah.
On the track. And the rest of us are going to start heading out to Roby Point. And we head out that way, meet up with him, and he did great in that section. Like, that section was really, I don't want to say nothing, but you held it really well.
Yeah, I mean, getting up to Roby Point, it's like, I'm done running. I'm just going to walk fast. And Sean and I are together there. We go through the aid station. There's tons of people around, and we're looking around. It's like, where is everybody?
For the aid station.
For the actual aid station where all the people were at. And it's like, we're just going to keep going. They're probably around here somewhere.
Yeah. So there's the aid station, which is actually like 1.2.
Yeah, 1.3, something like that. Yeah. We were between the mile and that, or we were closer to the 1 mile part, which is kind of the party spot. So we met him there. And we start doing the crew walk in, the celebration, so to speak, walk in. And nothing real eventful this year.
Yeah, because we were trying to get him moving, and he 15, and he's like, I got time.
Yeah, it's funny because he had time then, too. He had 10 minutes to spare. So he had an hour this time.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we come into the track, and you can tell it from there. It was awesome. It was awesome.
I mean, you're going down the streets with there's not a ton of people, but there's definitely people out partying a little bit, and you get right by the track, and the noise level gets higher, and then you get on the track, and the noise level gets even louder, and lots of people, and just start marching through, and more cameras start showing up, and get around to the final turn, and Ashley and Nicholas are there, so said hi to them, grabbed Nicholas, and carried him across the finish.
Yeah, and it was really cool. That was really neat.
Yep, turned out really well. That was one of the goals too, was to make sure that I could take him across the finish too, and hopefully his naps were going to work out that way. And
it did.
Going across the finish line, he's fighting you.
Nope, he was great going across. So
yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, it was good. Finished. And he just wanted to lay down, which is normal after 100. And you go out to the football field, it's scorching hot. again.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's no shade.
No shade. It's like, where do you go?
Yeah.
Well, this is in hindsight. We didn't go anywhere.
Well, I finished, and there's still 40 minutes before the end of the race. So it's in that golden hour when people are coming in. So you kind of want to hang around to see that. But, yeah, apparently we still had a late checkout for that hotel room that
until 1
didn't get used.
But you could have just drove there.
We could have
easily. You could have taken a shower, got a little nap.
All of us could have went and sat in AC, got showers, and then came back for the 4-hour award ceremony. That's an exaggeration. It's not actually 4 hours, but it's long.
It's long.
It's cool.
But you're doing your best to try to get under the tent, too, if you can.
We were
for a while.
We were, and I almost got smashed with a chair because I was asleep. I laid back, and this lady came up and set her stuff down, and her chair kind of like folded open. I don't think she was expecting it to, and it was close. I felt the wind. It was close, but
well, that knocked you out even more.
Yeah. But we could have went and just relaxed really in AC, but either way, it was all good. The hotel was a really smart idea. I would say it might even be a good idea without a toddler because of what it gives you if you get a late checkout.
Yeah.
A chance to go get out of the environment, the sun.
Yeah.
Get a shower, head back
for you, like the time that you finished, that would have been slick. Like
we had a lot of time, yeah.
Because we all slept on the lawn, remember that?
Yeah.
Or on the concrete.
Yeah.
I think Jason fell asleep on the concrete.
Yeah. We had great parking that year, though. It was right outside of
Yeah.
Well, actually, James and Ashley got great parking, too. It was right there outside of the top. Like, you go up the bleachers, and it was right there. But, yeah, it was a uneventful in a good way as far as crewing and running goes. It was to plan. The main goal was accomplished and finishing and going across the finish line with Nicholas.
Yep.
Crew side of things went smooth. Everybody, it went well. Everybody got where they were supposed to go at the end of the day because Green Gate was a big question mark for a while.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a good Western States. And Western States itself, the race was a really cool year with how the race worked out for both the men and the women. Katie Scheid, is that right?
I think
Katie
that's how it said, yeah.
Crushed it, killed the second place, killed the female race. She crushed it. And
yeah, she was second last year and then won this year.
Yeah.
And then I think the women's race anyway, that like the top 3 women crushed it.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah.
Like compared to like course record type stuff.
Well,
not the fastest.
But a lot of people were there for the women's race this year.
Yes. Yeah. There was a popular shirt going around. I'm here for the women's race.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was a white shirt. I think red letters. It just said here for the women's race.
Yeah. Huh. I'm just here for the women's race or something like that.
And they sold out of them.
Yes. And they are doing another merch drop. If that's something you're interested in.
Because that was the other interesting thing is Walmsley, I think he's just going to kill it hands down in that rod. I don't know.
Harvard. Yeah.
He was a minute ahead of him late in the race, and he only got him by 11 or 12 minutes in the end.
Yeah. At the river crossing, something happened and Rob Farvard jumped ahead. I don't know where or how that all works out because the one thing about the river crossing is you can do near side, far side, or near side Green Gate. So you can get your crew at near side, which means if the other person can jump ahead of you there, if you're doing Green Gate. So there is some shuffling that can happen there. But after that, Jim laid it down and got 10 minutes.
But they were together that whole way.
Yeah. A long way. Yeah.
Until,
shortly after Green Gate, whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't long after Green Gate
where he,
but he didn't put that much time on him.
And then the second and third place was literally a race on the track.
Yeah.
So that would have been fun to see. And I don't remember who took third. Hayden Hawk.
Yeah. He was only like 30 seconds behind him.
I think it was less than that.
Was it?
I think it was like 6 seconds.
It was pretty close.
It was like 6 seconds, but he was 2 or 3 minutes back at Roby Point. So he gained 2 or 3 minutes in that last mile and a quarter.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So he was back like 5th or 6th, it seems like, for quite a while. So he made up a lot of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't tracking anybody else and I wasn't watching the live stream. But how much of the live stream did you watch?
We were doing so much stuff. We actually we canoed on Sunday, so we didn't even see the finish. Like we were in boats. I was trying to track it while I was in the canoe, but I didn't have service out there.
They did a good job. They have, if anybody listening to this wants to go back and watch, they have a really good part 1, part 2, part 3, and
on YouTube. Yeah,
they have a really good coverage of the race.
Okay.
All times, if you just want to get kind of a flavor and a feel for the race, it really is good and good coverage. Anything else? Any other takeaways, Brian, from the race? Other than a really cool finisher shirt and a really cool 29er shirt.
That's what you get when you finish a little bit slow. You still finish, but you get the extra T-shirt for 29 Club. And
get your
then
money's
you get,
worth.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I have my qualifier out of the way.
You got your qualifier out of the way for next year. Putting in.
This is the actual shirt that they give you, though?
Yeah.
That's slick. And is
So
that a running shirt, too? Like it's...
Yeah, I'm sure it could be.
It could be. Any shirt's a running shirt if it's what you're wearing while you're running.
Yeah, that is
real buttons.
That is not a race shirt. That is a finisher's shirt.
All right.
They don't give away a race shirt anymore. You get a finisher's shirt.
I did buy another shirt at the store they have there too.
Yeah.
Plus another thermos thing and another bag and I don't know what else we got.
I got a coffee thermos thing. But
Got a little stuffed cougar stuffed animal
Nicholas.
thing for Nicholas. So.
Yeah, it was all in all a great year. If you're into the ultra scene, man, you have to try to make a trip out there and see that race. It's incredible. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Be sure to check us out. Or anything else, Brian, before we let you go?
Done.
I'm
looking for 5Ks now.
5Ks, 10Ks are the most. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, all your favorite listening platforms. Check us out on Patreon. You can join for free or choose to support us in some way, shape, or form. That's going to wrap up this week's episode of the I Don't Know Running podcast. Be sure to tune in next time as we share more about what we just don't know.
Until then, happy running.